Have you ever wondered what Las Vegas really felt like before the mega resorts and flashing billboards of today? Tonight on MemoryLens US, we step back into the 1950s to explore the hidden truths behind the neon lights. If you enjoy journeys into America's past, please subscribe to the channel. And feel free to like and share this video so others can discover these stories too. Some visuals in this video are symbolic and may not exactly match every moment described, and we appreciate your understanding. Now, settle in, relax, and enjoy a nostalgic trip through time. If you could stand in Las Vegas just after the Second World War, you might hardly recognize the place compared to the glittering city people know today. In the early 1940s, Las Vegas was still a small desert town with only about 8,422 residents. Dusty roads stretched across the valley, and life moved at a slow pace under the Nevada sun. But within a single decade, something remarkable happened. By the middle of the 1950s, the population had surged to more than 45,000 people. Workers, dreamers, veterans, entertainers, and entrepreneurs all poured into the valley. Many Americans who had just lived through the hardships of war were looking for excitement, opportunity, and a fresh start. Las Vegas offered all of it. For visitors arriving from Los Angeles, Chicago, or New York, the city felt almost unreal. Bright neon signs lit up the desert night. Casinos never seemed to sleep, and the Strip offered luxuries that felt surprisingly affordable. A traveler could walk into a casino cafe and order a steak dinner for around $1. Drinks were cheap, the music was lively, and the gaming tables were always full. But more than the gambling or the food, Las Vegas offered something Americans deeply wanted in the 1950s. It offered escape. For many visitors, stepping onto the Strip felt like entering a carefree playground, where ordinary rules seemed to fade away, if only for a weekend. And in those glowing nights of the 1950s, Las Vegas began to earn a reputation that would follow it for generations. It was becoming America's playground in the desert. If you had walked through the grand casinos of Las Vegas in the 1950s, everything would have looked polished and respectable. The Flamingo, the Dunes, and later the Stardust welcomed visitors with bright lights, elegant showrooms, and the promise of excitement. To the average tourist, these places felt glamorous and perfectly legitimate. But behind the scenes, another story was unfolding. Many of the major casinos on the Strip were quietly influenced by organized crime groups from cities like Chicago and New York. Figures connected to the Chicago outfit and several East Coast crime families had financial interests in some of the most famous resorts. Their presence was rarely visible to the public. Most guests enjoying dinner or placing bets at the blackjack tables never suspected how deeply these networks were involved. One of the most important practices in that era was something known as skimming. Each night, after the casino floor closed, trusted employees gathered in counting rooms to sort through the cash that had come in from the gaming tables. Officially, the money would be recorded and reported to the state. In reality, a portion of the cash was quietly set aside before the books were finalized. That unrecorded money could then be moved out of the casino without appearing in official reports. It was often transported in suitcases and eventually sent to partners in other cities. For the people running these operations, skimming became one of the main ways organized crime profited from Las Vegas during the 1950s. Yet what makes this period so fascinating is that most visitors never saw any of this. To them, Las Vegas still looked like a glittering paradise in the desert, even while powerful forces were quietly shaping the city from the shadows. One of the strangest truths about Las Vegas in the 1950s is that, despite the influence of organized crime, many visitors actually felt very safe. For tourists arriving from across the United States, the city seemed surprisingly orderly. The casinos were busy all night. Crowds filled the sidewalks along the Strip, and people carried cash without constantly worrying about theft. Part of this unusual sense of safety came from the unwritten rules enforced by the people who truly controlled many of the casinos. Organized crime groups had a clear interest in protecting the reputation of Las Vegas as a place where visitors could relax and spend money without trouble. If tourists began to feel unsafe, the entire business model of the city could collapse. Because of that, petty crime was rarely tolerated around the casinos. Stories from the time suggest that small-time thieves who tried to target visitors were often dealt with quietly and quickly. Instead of lengthy police investigations, Problems were sometimes handled behind closed doors by casino security or by individuals connected to the organizations running the properties. For visitors in the 1950s, this created a strange and almost invisible system of order. The flashing lights, the music, and the excitement of the gaming floor continued without interruption. Most guests never saw the enforcement happening behind the scenes. All they experienced was a city where they could walk the strip late at night, enjoy a show, and feel that nothing would spoil the evening. Looking back today, it feels like a paradox. A city shaped by powerful criminal networks somehow managed to present itself as one of the safest and most carefree playgrounds in America during that era. Life in Las Vegas during the 1950s was lived under a sky that sometimes held a very unusual spectacle. About 65 miles north of the city, the United States government conducted a series of nuclear tests at the Nevada test site. These detonations were part of the early Cold War. Yet in Las Vegas, they quickly became something few people expected. They became a tourist attraction. Visitors staying in hotels along the Strip often woke before sunrise for a moment that felt almost surreal. When a test was scheduled, people gathered on hotel rooftops and balconies to watch the distant horizon. For a brief instant, the desert sky would flash with intense light, followed by the slow rising shape of the famous mushroom cloud. Casinos and hotels even leaned into the moment. Some properties hosted early morning gatherings known as atomic cocktail parties. Guests sipped drinks while watching the distant explosion unfold beyond the mountains. Newspapers and local tourism offices sometimes promoted the images, presenting the tests as another dramatic feature of the Las Vegas experience. Looking back today, it is hard to imagine how ordinary this seemed at the time. The Cold War was real, but the mood in America during the 1950s was also filled with confidence and curiosity about the atomic age. In Las Vegas, that spirit blended with the city's love of spectacle. Even something as powerful as a nuclear test became part of the strange and unforgettable atmosphere that surrounded the Strip during that decade. When people remember Las Vegas in the 1950s, they often picture bright lights, famous singers, and glamorous casino floors. But behind that glittering image was a reality that many visitors never saw. Like much of America during that time, Las Vegas struggled with deep racial segregation. In fact, the city was sometimes referred to as the Mississippi of the West because of how strict the racial divide could be. Black residents were largely confined to the West Side neighborhood, an area separated from the luxury and prosperity of the Strip. Streets there were often unpaved, and public services were limited compared to other parts of the city. What makes this history especially striking is how it affected some of the very performers who helped make Las Vegas famous. Legendary artists such as Nat King Cole, Sammy Davis Jr., and Ella Fitzgerald filled showrooms night after night. Audiences packed the Sands, the Sahara, and other casinos to hear them sing. Their talent helped define the golden age of entertainment in Las Vegas. Yet once the show ended, those same performers could not stay in the hotels where they had just performed. Many black entertainers were required to enter through side doors and leave after their performances to return to accommodations on the West Side. Imagine standing on stage in front of a cheering crowd, then being reminded that the same building did not welcome you as a guest. Looking back today, this part of Las Vegas history feels painful but important to remember. The music, the lights, and the excitement of the 1950s were real. But so were the barriers that many people faced behind the scenes of that glamorous era. By the late 1950s, Las Vegas had become more than a gambling town. It had turned into one of the most exciting entertainment capitals in America. The energy of the Strip after sunset was something visitors often remembered for the rest of their lives. Music spilled out of casino lounges, showgirls in glittering costumes crossed busy casino floors, and famous performers seemed almost within arm's reach. This was the era closely associated with the Rat Pack. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and their friends helped define the spirit of Las Vegas nightlife. In many lounges, the atmosphere felt intimate and spontaneous. A visitor might walk in expecting a simple show and end up watching legendary entertainers join each other on stage late into the night. The distance between audience and performer felt surprisingly small. Las Vegas entertainment during this time carried a sense of immediacy that many people still describe with nostalgia. But change was already approaching the city. In 1966, billionaire Howard Hughes quietly began purchasing several major Las Vegas casinos and hotels. His arrival marked an important turning point. Hughes brought a very different style of management, one based on corporate ownership, financial oversight, and long-term investment, rather than the personal relationships that had shaped the earlier era. Over time, this shift helped move Las Vegas away from the shadowy influence that had defined much of the 1950s. The city did not lose its glamour, but it began transforming into a more regulated and corporate destination. Looking back today, that moment represents the closing chapter of one of the most unusual periods in American entertainment history. The legendary Knights of the Old Strip would always remain part of Las Vegas lore. As we come to the end of this journey, I always find the story of Las Vegas in the 1950s both fascinating and a little haunting. It was a time of bright lights, bold dreams, and complicated realities that helped shape the city we know today. Personally, I believe understanding these moments from the past helps us see America with clearer eyes. Some of the visuals you saw in this video were created with the help of artificial intelligence to make the history easier to imagine and follow along. They are meant to illustrate the story and atmosphere of the era. I would truly love to hear your thoughts. What part of this history surprised you the most? Please share your ideas in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to MemoryLens US, like the video, and share it with others who enjoy exploring the past together.